The stage lights softened, casting a hush over the audience as they sat in anticipation for the night's event. It was meant to be another typical evening on Jimmy Kimmel Live *, but this time, something extraordinary was brewing. The spotlight was on Elon Musk, a figure synonymous with controversy and innovation, whose name dominated headlines for his audacious ventures, from colonizing Mars to revolutionizing transportation with electric vehicles. Not everyone, however, was captivated by his grand dreams. Jimmy Kimmel, the host renowned for his biting wit and fearless humor, was poised to stir the pot. Tonight, he seemed determined to probe just how much Musk could handle before losing his cool. The air crackled with excitement as the crowd wondered what surprises awaited. As the show began, Musk strode onto the stage, his composed exterior belying the undercurrent of tension within him. He offered Kimmel a cautious smile, their hands shake firm, before settling into his seat. The lights flared, cameras whirred to life, and the interview kicked off. "Elon, it's fantastic to have you here," Kimmel opened, his tone polished yet laced with a hint of mischief. "You've been juggling a lot lately, haven't you? With all your companies and those Mars missions, it's hard to keep track." Musk gave a soft chuckle, his gaze sweeping the audience. "It's been quite a journey, but I'm focused on advancing humanity's future." Kimmel's grin widened, a touch of sarcasm seeping through. "Oh, sure, advancing humanity, by flinging cars into orbit and peddling pricey flamethrowers. That's the future, right?" The audience tittered at Kimmel's jab, but Musk held steady, unfazed. Sometimes, the best way to spark inspiration is to do the unexpected. Kimmel, however, wasn't about to ease up. "Right, but let's talk about those electric cars. You've seen the memes, I'm sure, people calling them glorified golf carts that break down. What do you say to that?" Musk's smile tightened just a fraction, though his voice remained even. "Those memes miss the point. We're working to cut our dependence on fossil fuels and create a cleaner planet. It's about innovation, not just appearances." Kimmel arched a brow, leaning in. "Innovation, huh? Last I checked, your rockets keep exploding, and your cars have their share of problems. Most people might have thrown in the towel after the third or fourth fireball." Musk's jaw stiffened, but he took a measured breath, keeping his composure. "Progress isn't a straight path. Failure is part of it, but I'm not chasing quick wins. I'm in it for lasting impact." Kimmel leaned back, clearly relishing the moment. "Lasting impact, you say? Let's see how that pans out." He turned to the audience, who hung on every word. "So, Elon, what's the plan when Mars doesn't become the paradise you're pitching? What happens when you realize there's no backup for the Earth you're leaving in the dust?" The room fell silent. Musk's jaw clenched, the tension radiating from him palpable. The audience's laughter faded, and what began as playful banter now felt like a high-stakes showdown. Kimmel pressed on, undeterred. "You talk about saving humanity, but how do you save us from the chaos you've stirred up here? The wealthy keep winning, while the rest of us are stuck with glitchy electric cars, waiting for your next big flop." Musk shot to his feet, his hands gripping the table's edge. "You don't understand, Jimmy. You sit there ridiculing progress, but I'm out there trying to reshape the world. People like you would rather smite from the sidelines than roll up their sleeves and contribute." The air grew heavy, the audience unsure if this was scripted drama or a genuine clash. Kimmel, unfazed, leaned closer. "I'm not ridiculing progress, Elon. I'm ridiculing your ego. You launch a company and suddenly think you're humanity's savior. But you're not. You're just another billionaire playing deity with people's futures." Musk's expression darkened, the calm facade of the tech titan replaced by raw anger. His hands trembled with frustration. "I'm working for humanity's survival, Jimmy. What are you doing?" Cracking jokes from behind a desk, Kimmel's smirk widened, clearly thriving on the intensity he'd provoked. "What am I doing? My job, Elon. Making people laugh while you turn the world into your personal reality show. And let's be honest, it's not going as smoothly as you'd hoped." The audience teetered on the edge, the once light-hearted interview now a full-on war of egos. The studio's atmosphere had shifted dramatically. What started as a casual chat between two icons had erupted into a fierce battle of wills. The crowd sat riveted, uncertain of what would unfold next. The tension was almost tangible. Musk was no longer the unflappable visionary the public knew. His cool had given way to visible fury. Kimmel's grin only grew sharper, sensing he'd struck a nerve. "Look, Elon," Kimmel went on, his voice smooth but cutting like a blade. "You talk about transforming the world, but you're also redefining what it means to be a tycoon. You've got legions of followers hanging on your every tweet, but let's be real. Sometimes it feels like you're just a slick pitchman with a few clever ideas." Musk's fists tightened beneath the table, his effort to stay in control evident. "I'm not selling anything, Jimmy. This isn't about profit. It's about a future where we're free from fossil fuels, where we're not wrecking our planet. But you wouldn't get that. You're more interested in cheap laughs than real change." Kimmel laughed, unbothered. "Cheap laughs. You're out here preaching about saving the world, but your company's bleeding cash. How do you plan to revolutionize anything if you can't even turn a profit? Seems like you're more about flash than substance." Musk's eyes narrowed, his carefully crafted calm beginning to fracture. "That's because I'm thinking long-term, Jimmy. You're too busy chasing the next viral quid to see it. What I'm doing is bigger than either of us. It's about humanity's survival." Kimmel leaned closer, his tone dropping slightly. "Sure, but how long are you going to keep burning through other people's money, Elon? How long do you expect folks to buy into your vision when your projects keep hitting snags?" The audience went quiet, Kimmel's words sinking in. The jabs were sharper now, the stakes higher. Musk struggled to rein in his temper, but Kimmel wasn't slowing down. He was hunting for every crack in Musk's armor. "Let's talk about your so-called masterpieces," Kimmel continued, his voice dripping with provocation. "Rockets that blow up, cars that glitch out, and now you want to ship people to Mars. You've got plenty of ideas, Elon, but what good are they if they don't deliver?" Musk's grip on the armrest tightened, his frustration mounting. "That's the issue with people like you, Jimmy. You see a setback and call it defeat. Failure is how we grow, how we improve. You can't transform the world by playing it safe." Kimmel's grin turned razor sharp. "And that's where you're mistaken, Elon. It's not just about failure. It's about reliability. You can't keep claiming you're saving the world when half your ventures crash and burn. You're like a walking disaster in a fancy suit." The crowd erupted, some laughing, others muttering in shock at how heated things had grown. But the clash was far from over. Musk's jaw tightened as Kimmel's words hit their mark, yet he refused to back down. Leaning forward, his voice low but charged with intensity, he said, "You don't get it, Jimmy. You mock me, you mock my work, but you're blind to the bigger picture. Every breakthrough demands risks, and risks bring setbacks, but they'll pay off. You'll see." Kimmel wasn't done. "Oh, I'll see, all right. And when your Mars dream implodes, you can look back on all these visionary moments and recall tonight. The guy who tried to sell the future, but ended up with a string of flops and a battered reputation." Musk's face flushed, but he battled to stay composed. "You think this is a game, Jimmy? You think you can tear people down for a quick laugh? I'm building something bigger than you'll ever grasp." Kimmel shook his head, sarcasm oozing from every syllable. "Building something. You're a guy with grand plans and a lot of hype, but precious little to show for it. Keep telling yourself you're shaping the future. That's all you've got left." The confrontation had reached a fever pitch. The audience was caught in the crossfire, some cheering, others groaning, while producers in the background fidgeted nervously, their headsets abuzz with panic. The interview had veered into uncharted territory, growing more explosive by the second. Musk's eyes burned with rage, but his voice held steady. "I'm not here for games, Jimmy. I'm here to make a difference. Mock me all you want. I'll be the one remembered for driving humanity forward, while you're just another talk show host." Kimmel's smirk returned, his tone icy. "Yeah, and I'll remember you as the guy whose rockets couldn't stay aloft without exploding in his face. You're no hero, Elon. Just a man with a fat wallet and an even fatter ego. Musk stood abruptly, his chair scraping loudly across the floor. His hands shook, his face red with fury. For a moment, it seemed he might storm off, but instead, he leaned over the desk, his voice rising. "You have no clue what it takes to do what I do, Jimmy. Laugh all you want, but the people changing the world aren't cracking jokes from a desk. They're out there, risking everything for a better tomorrow." The audience fell silent, the tension thick enough to choke on. Kimmel, however, pressed further, his gaze cold and calculating. "Risking everything, Elon. You're risking other people's lives, other people's money, all for your wild schemes. And when they fail, it's not you who pays the price, it's everyone else." The studio was a pressure cooker. The crowd sat frozen, unsure what would happen next. Musk and Kimmel were entangled in a verbal duel that had transcended a mere interview. It was now a clash of philosophies, of ambition versus skepticism, of a dreamer versus a cynic. Musk's face was flushed, while Kimmel's smirk remained unshaken, his sharp tongue cutting through the charged air. Musk's chest heaved as he fought to steady himself, his hands still trembling from the fiery exchange. For a fleeting moment, it looked like he might walk off, fed up with the relentless barbs. But he stayed, leaning back in his chair and exhaling deeply, striving to regain his calm. "You're right, Jimmy," Musk said, his voice softer but resolute. "I'm not flawless. I've stumbled plenty, but you know what? I'll keep pushing forward, no matter how many times I fall. That's what it takes to change the world. Mock me all you like. I'm not stopping." Kimmel raised an eyebrow, his tone still sharp. "I'm not mocking you, Elon. I'm just laying out the facts. You talk about changing the world, but it doesn't matter how many rockets you launch or cars you build if you can't stay grounded. How can you build a future for anyone if you're always tripping over your own feet?" Musk's jaw tightened, but this time he didn't fire back right away. Kimmel's challenge had hit a nerve, perhaps because, deep down, Musk knew there was a grain of truth in it. He'd taken massive risks, made bold promises, and some of those promises teetered on the edge of collapse under their own weight. "I don't expect everyone to get what I'm doing," Musk said, his voice steadier but still firm. "I'm building a future, a world free from fossil fuels, where people can live on Mars, where we can cross the globe in minutes. These are massive goals. They take time, and yes, they come with failures. But if I quit because of a setback, what does that say?" Kimmel didn't relent. "It says you're a guy with big dreams and a lot of noise, but no substance. You want to change the world, but all I see is someone who can't even handle a tough interview without losing it. Is that the leader we need? Someone who cracks under pressure." The word stung, and Musk's face tightened again. But instead of erupting, he took a deep breath and met Kimmel's gaze head-on. "I'm not perfect," he admitted. "But neither are you, Jimmy. You take shots at people trying to make a difference. I get it. It's your job to entertain, to get laughs. But there's a difference between entertaining and building progress. If you spent as much time thinking about the future as you do crafting punchlines, maybe you'd understand." The audience was hushed, waiting to see if this was a turning point. Could Musk steer the conversation back to his vision? Or was this the moment he'd finally break? Kimmel, ever the instigator, smirked again. "So now you're saying I should ditch the jokes and start building rockets too? Come on, Elon, lighten up. You can't just whip out the 'I'm changing the world' card every time someone calls you out. Sometimes things just don't work out." Musk's eyes narrowed. "I've owned up to failure more times than I can count, Jimmy. But I don't let it define me. I keep going. That's the difference between someone shaping the future and someone just tossing out snarky comments from the sidelines." Kimmel leaned back, his grin stretching wider. "Oh, I see. You're the visionary, and I'm just the guy who doesn't get it. Well, maybe I'm just reminding you that dreams don't always pan out. Sometimes, no matter how hard you try, they stay dreams." Musk's face was like granite, his eyes locked with determination. "That's where you're wrong, Jimmy. I don't just dream, I build. And when I fail, I get up and try again. That's why, in the end, I'll be the one changing the world. You can laugh, you can mock, but you can't stop progress. The words lingered, heavy with the moment's intensity. For a brief second, it seemed Kimmel might fire back, but he held his tongue. The verbal sparring had reached its zenith, and there was little left to say. Musk had laid down his challenge, and the tension between them crackled. The silence was deafening, the audience frozen in awe. They just witnessed a clash of giants, two towering figures locked in a battle over humanity's future and the role of those bold enough to envision it. Kimmel broke the silence first, his voice stripped of sarcasm, carrying a hint of respect. Well, Elon, you've made your case, but I'll say this, you've got a tough road ahead. I hope, for your sake, you can hold it together when things get rough. Musk nodded, his expression unreadable. I've faced rough times before, Jimmy, and I'll face them again. When you're trying to change the world, there's no room for quitting. The interview wrapped there, the tension still thick in the air. The cameras cut, and the audience began to murmur, their voices filling the space. One thing was clear. The world had just seen a moment that would linger in memory. Elon Musk had held his ground. Jimmy Kimmel had pushed him to the brink. And for a fleeting moment, the world glimpsed the fiery resolve of a man who believed that no matter how many times he stumbled, he'd never stop striving to reshape the future.